base. We'll add some more paint to this here, but this is a nice big old chunk of Sculpey here. There is, I think, nope, that's just one big old hunk of Sculpey there. This is using the Green Stuff World texture rollers. And what am I talking about here? Let me find the appropriate roller here, which I believe is this one. There we go. So you can see, if I hold it just right, get a little decent peek at what's going on there. And we used the gray extra firm Sculpey. I got posts on the blog. If you want to check out the blog, that's another good little resource. But let's just show you what some of the stuff. Here we go. There's tons of different textures here. And I've used a lot of these. This is another favorite of mine. Got these dwarven runes here. Really fantastic. And we've even got 40K stuff. Here's my last little chunk of the Egyptian roller, so you can see nice hieroglyphics there. Got all kinds of stuff. And Loim in the house. Hopefully my sounds will work. They should. I've got them turned on. And there should be some new sounds for follows and raids and all that other kind of wild and crazy stuff. So if you hear different sounds, like maybe something from Lord of the Rings or Battlestar Galactica, hopefully that'll be fun. Now, one thing that they came out with, oh gosh, a year and something ago, were these little guides, and there's 3 different thicknesses, just a rubber band basically. But this is one way to get that same thickness on every piece. So we're going to get out one of these pieces again. So I've got this set. So there's your thickness right there. It's sometimes a little bit of a art, but you got to get used to mixing and rolling the Sculpey, that sort of thing. Now this extra piece right here, conveniently to line up with some of their rollers, they've got these really nifty extra pieces like this. So this goes along with the Greek themed roller. And let's see, we've got, here's one for the Egyptian theme. And I think we've got a couple. Yeah, here's another really nifty one for your Egyptian theme. They also have really fun stuff like I just call them texture plates. It's again, another piece of resin. Got a bunch of videos on the YouTube channel that show you how to work with that. You've got Aztec. There's Celtic. There's just, oh my gosh, there's Roman. I think I got the Celtic over here. So what do they... Yeah, so there's your... Again, this is from Green Stuff World right here. Some really nifty broken statue heads. This is another thing. They've come out with a couple different things of bottles. So we're going to be trying those on some future streams too. And we've got a little difference in the paint here. We've been using the Pro Acryls an awful lot. Well, we're going to go back to the Reaper paints here. So we've got some of our liner paints like blue liner, brown liner, red liner, green liner, the usuals. We really love those, especially really love the red liner here. And we got a whole bunch of the clears. Actually, clear orange is one of the newer ones that they've added. There's also there's a magenta, there's a purple, all kinds of nifty clear paints. Those are a bit like the transparent paints from Pro Acryl. And you can see those laid out here. So we've got clear purple, clear blue, clear red, clear yellow, clear orange. Over here you got your liner paints. You got your clear blue, clear brown, blue liner, brown liner, red liner, and green liner. Now over here, I just call these my off-whites. So you've got basically a cool off-white, maggot white. You have a warmer off-white, maiden flesh. Those sitting over here, and the idea is that you combine these with all of these guys here, which are all super intense pigments. I guess think along the lines of those Chimera paints, right, where it's pure pigment, as I make the invisible air quotes that you can't see. I also have some makeup sponges here. And what's the deal with the makeup sponges? Well, what we're going to do is take one of these big old craft brushes, which is bigger than our usual big old craft brush, like so. We're going to take some of these and we're just going to do some preliminary glazes on this, and then we're going to wipe away some of the excess. And that just sort of helps you, well, first of all, it sort of pre-shades things, but also gives you a tint of color. Obviously going to be a lot of golds on this guy. You can see I got a couple of reference pictures stashed down in the corners there. I'm not entirely sure what I want to do with his skin tones. Grayish brown. Didn't want to do that kind of bluish black because it's more of a Anubis type of a thing. Now this may be white or blue. Obviously the alternating blue and gold. So we're going to have a lot of golds in this too. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to, like I said, take some of this water here. There's no mediums. It's all just water. It's all just water. We're going to take things like, Mr. Brown liner over here. We're going to take maybe even a little bit of our clear orange. We're just going to start to lay out some colors. And the nice thing is, oh look, I can throw in a little bit of the red liner. And the idea is to basically shift these colors along the way. Heck, I might even use some green liner in some places. Because this is not your final color. This is what's set down in the background. This is what's set way down in the background there. And you build from this. So here's some of the brown liner there. And once you get a decent amount of this in place, and usually, yeah, let's do a bit more. Let's get some of that red liner out here too. And I'm gonna go right to the waist here. That's basically a nice little dam. It's gonna stop the liquid from flowing. Hey, Techno Cat, how's it going? Oh, and Mal's brown coat. Brand new to minis and painting in general, but watching a ton of vids like this to get started. I don't have a whole lot of those smaller brushes. You're going to see me using, right now I'm using a number 12 round. You will be seeing me use this number 8 round for most of it. Actually, the reason I use those, a couple of reasons, but not the least of which, is that I don't have to use as many of those zeros and ones, those smaller brushes. They're not getting beat up if I'm using these bigger brushes. Also, using a sponge right here. And what we're doing is we're just kind of taking away some of this excess glaze right here. Now this is going to be a little bit of a different take on miniatures than probably what you're going to see in, I don't know, 99.9. There's a second Wappel in the house. There literally is. I mean, she's like in the other room. So there is another Wappel. Hopefully at some point the doorbell rings and our printer cartridges show up. So if you hear a doorbell, that's what that is. Now you know already. And even here you can see the difference here between what we got up here, down here. You can see a little tint of red there, tints of brown and other stuff going on. Let's do some more of this. Let's just take even more of that. Some more of the orange there. I think really when it all comes down to it, the liner paints, it's almost like the clear paints, but with some black added, because they're really intense colors. They're dark. There's a beef in the hole, and there is also, yes, Wappel squared. I'm just hoping that my new sounds work, because I was excited about those. I got some Lord of the Rings sounds. I think there's a hosting sound. There should be a new raid sound. There should be a follow sound. I think there's a new subscriber sound too. Kind of a mix of Battlestar and Lord of the Rings sounds. So we'll see if they work. I tested them. They worked when I tested them. Tacos, yeah, Actually, when did I hear about ice cream tacos? Actually, ice cream anything is good. Heck, I think I might have had an ice cream pizza once or something like that. Basically, just give me a big pile of ice cream. And the flavor's not even that important either. So, Now the other thing we can do, let's grab a couple other sponges here. We got our scissors. We can do something like this, and we'll cut some different sizes out of this. It's handy because getting that big old sponge down in there, not really going to be terribly easy. Gives me a little more control. And here, you can cut these to shape if you want. Technocat has donated, except I thought I had a different sound set for that. Oh well, I guess it didn't like my sounds. But thank you for the donation anyways. Oh, maybe I didn't do that one. I don't know. We'll find out. But it's appreciated in any case. There was a jingly sound. Actually, hopefully you guys heard that. I could hear it. I like ice cream and a mango sorbet. Okay, actually, I'll take that too, because even the sorbet sounds really fun because, geez, I can't even remember the last time I just had ice cream. Just regular old ice cream. Back to our sponges again. So you can see in no time at all, it kind of sits down in all those little crevices there. I can take even more away if I want. Do I want more removed there? Maybe. That's about here. Okay, so think of that as pretty similar to what we did to the base, but using those darker brown liner paints and all that sort of stuff, so can always hear the sound of money. And now I'm just hearing the sound of ice cream. That's all I'm starting to hear now. All right, let's see what we can do now. Take advantage of what we've just laid down here. Now, do I want to make that might actually just be white, because I got a whole bunch of reference pictures on another screen that I'm looking at, and I'm thinking that might not be a bad idea. Obviously, gold's here. We'll do the obviously the blue and the alternating thing. What do we want to do with his face? So what we'll do is we're gonna...
Hello, little hobbit. Spark my ganja.
Ha ha! There we go. So thank you, George. You just got the first Gandalf sound, and that worked, baby. That makes me happy. That makes me really happy. I probably shouldn't be that happy, but I am. And now we're going to start to paint a little more opaque here. Even though some of that initial glaze is still drying, we are going to go right into here. Going to dive right in. Going to start to think about what do I want to do for his skin tone here. We're going to be mixing a lot. It's another reason why we have the Reaper clears and liners out here. We're going to be doing an awful lot of just mixing as we go. And you can see I still have some of that preliminary wash that is wet, and I'm going to let that work its way right into what I'm painting on here. Now let's see, his hand doesn't look like there's a glove, so I'm just going to, yeah, look, it's going to let it mix right in. It's almost like we're working with oils, but we're not. It's sort of like oils. Another reason for the big brush. Another reason for the larger brush. Lets me work faster. Look at that. So I can take some of that preliminary wash that's just sitting in there. It's just sitting in there waiting for me to use it. Yeah, I could just wait for it all to dry and put nice, clean, little dead layers of paint on there, but that ain't how we do it here in Wappelville. We don't do it like that. There's nothing clean about this. There's nothing clean about ice cream either, just deliciousness. So you can see we've already let that just sort of mix and blend and move itself around. Probably going to get some more reds into that skin tone as well. But while I've got that glaze still wet, I'm just going to push it around. Again, number 8 round craft brush. I just get these from Hobby Lobby, but there's just any number of places that are just fine to get something like that. Just fine. And I could push the wet blending a little bit more. Boy, I get the one thing about working on just one figure at a time is I don't get to do two figure blending. There's just a lot of people doing the two brush blending, but I haven't seen a lot of people painting two figures literally at once in their hand.
Who enters my domain?
Yes, that sound works, baby. Well, welcome, Raiders. You have entered a domain of Wappelville. We're painting a Reaper miniature right here, and well, you just missed out on the really messy stage where we were using makeup sponges. Well, you can see my hand, kind of messy. What we're trying to do is take advantage of that and even do a little bit of wet blending here. So we're actually going to get a little bit of our reds into that skin tone. These are Reaper clear paints, purple, blue, red, orange, and yellow. Over here, your liner paints, blue, brown, red, and green. Then a couple of off-whites. And right now we're starting to incorporate some of those off-whites. And I know this looks a little bit like oil paints because love me some oil paints. And we're doing all this wet into wet blending, but what it really is just a big old brush. Big old brush working fast. Because there's some of that initial wash that I can still push around and play with. I know this kind of makes people nervous. The fact that there's wet paint and it's still being moved around. They're used to their nice little tidy layers, and then it all dries, and then they do glazes. Or you could just not wait for that stuff to dry, and while it's wet, start pushing it all over the place. And we're even going to start thinking about what happens here. I think maybe alternating some blue and red on this. Yes, the town of Wappelville was actually created many years ago when my dad made this train set board, like many years ago, and the train station had the name Wappelville on the top of it. And ever since, this whole region of the country, we like to think of it as just Greater Wappelville. So it kind of extends to the state line and further downstate to a certain degree. That's all just part of Wappelville. That's what we say. Now, other entities have territorial claims on it, but we don't care about those because this is the miniature painting zone right here. As I just keep adding, I can even throw in a little bit of yellow there.
Hello, little hobbits. Spark my ganja.
And there we go. Empress on. Thank you for the follow. It's appreciated. And you're making my sounds work too, which makes me extra happy. Because when I was setting these things up in Streamlabs earlier, I didn't realize that you had to basically restart your Streamlabs every single time you did a new sound. Because I'm testing them and nothing's happening until I restarted it, and then I get to hear my sound. So clearly I like my sounds. And we even had a raid sound, so we had some Mordor action going on. Let's see, Wappelville, where the blends are dirty and the minis are pretty. I like that. Well, that's got to be a shirt, and or a sticker, and or a hat. That's got to be wearable right there. So we're just kind of marching along with our skin tone. Now, normally I don't even spend this much time on one part of a figure, but because I've got these wet blending opportunities here, I'm just going to take advantage of them. And you can see how many colors did we use. We used a couple of these dirty things in a glaze. We added some maiden flesh to some yellow and orange, and poof. And now we've got, look at this, we got some greens in the skin tone. We've got some orange. We've got some yellow, some browns. Because we let it do its thing, we got so many more colors, and, it's been a couple of minutes. Well, thanks, George. Appreciate it. No, Mal's asked, do you think that the size of that miniature is ideal for a beginner? This is still 28 millimeter scale because he's kind of a monstrous creature, basically. So he's still a 28 mil. actually things that have not a whole bunch of intricate shape. Now this one might be a little bit tougher because of all of this stuff going on and potentially all the metals and such. Actually, Reaper bones. That's the thing. Okay, so these type of figures here. So let's go to some of the bones figures like these. These are dirt cheap, like literally a couple bucks a piece. And you can see you can paint those up just fine. That it is a basically indestructible plastic, and if you don't like it, you just paint over it. So this is another Reaper bones, and there's another Reaper bones. I don't know why people don't. They kind of don't want to spend any time on their bones figures, but all of these figures are virtually indestructible here. You could throw them against a wall. You might mess up the base, but other than that, so that's not a bad place to start. Is find yourself some of those Reaper bones. They, like I say, they're real cheap, and if you don't like how they turn out, just paint over it. I mean, well, that's what we do with any figure. If we don't like what happens, we don't strip it or anything like that. We just basically start to paint over it. Now let's shift some things here. We've been doing an awful lot with that yellow and such. Let's get a little more red. Let's get some red working over here. Hey, is there a Gilbert in the house? There's a Gilbert in the house. I was hoping you'd be able to join up on this thing here. Hopefully the back is not tweaking. And oh, speaking of Reaper bones stuff, go check out Red Dragon and check out his Facebook page because he's got tons of bones dragons going on. Uh, have you done what 3 of them in the last month, including? Well, let's see. You had the dueling dragons, right? Then you had. Well, now you're working on the big 5-headed dude, but you've had all kinds of dragon stuff going on. Let's see. I'm just gonna. But no magenta. Yeah, you know what? I forgot the darn clear magenta. I don't know where the heck it is. I've got them sitting around here. I love clear magenta. Oh, that'd be great for gold. Ooh, wait a minute. Where'd that? Here we go. So when we do some of the golds, we're actually gonna pop some of the fluorescents in there too because, well, they're fluorescents and they're neat. And I used to use what was it? The Vallejo ones. I still got them, but once I started using the Goldens, that really changed things. Speaking of changing, I'm liking this little shift over here to some reds in the skin tones. I'm not going to wipe out all that greenish gray though. We definitely want to hang on to that. But for right now, yeah, let's just see if we can work some of this. What do I want to do on his beak? I want that to be lighter, but his beak, yeah, let's make that maybe a dark there. I'm just looking at my references off screen. I got the references on screen too. Now I think I can turn my brightness up just a smidge now that he's not just primered anymore. So, and now here, this is another thing too. So you can see the reds and the yellows right there. Let's do something like that. Now you can still see some shape. There's some light and dark, right? But now you don't see the difference in that red and the yellow. As we bring that saturation back, boom, you can see that difference. So yeah, go check out the Red Dragon Model Works there. He's always does some neat stuff. Well, you'll see all of his nifty baby Yodas done in oils and some other large scale stuff, but the Reaper Bones Dragons, you kind of can't go wrong because, well, they're huge. They're way less than, say, a resin dragon, and they don't break, so you don't have to worry about snapping off a wing or something horrible like that. Yeah, I'm going to get back to some of my yellows. Now, I don't want to get too much yellow in there because we want this to contrast with our gold. I'm also looking... No, it's the body of a man, but should it have some texture? So I've got to also decide, should the skin have some texture? Now, greens. Let's not forget our greens here. That's the green liner. We just mixed, palette sludge in with it. You can see how many times I've cleaned my brush, which is sort of none. Not a whole bunch. There, let's get some of this green in here now. in his arm too, because you can have many different forms of contrast. Most people, they get really locked in, zeroed in on that notion of light versus dark. Everybody wants lights and shadows. But then there's this dude called Middle Tones, and he's always left behind. He never gets credit for anything. It's always the lights and shadows. Well, by virtue of adding some green here, look at this. We got green, red, and a yellow all sort of sitting around in the same area there. That's going to make that look more interesting. People aren't going to really, they're not going to look at him at first and go, look at, there's green there, there's yellow there, there's red there. Not going to do that. They're going to say, wow, there's some neat colors going on with that skin tone. And then as they get drawn in closer, then they start to say, huh, yeah, look at all the nifty colors and stuff that's in there. So you're just trying to kind of rope in the viewer. Now, we are going to take some of that same green because chapter 1 of the Book of Wappel and, what is it? Oh yeah, bits will get you readings from the Book of Wappel. Chapter 1, verse 1, if a color goes somewhere, it must go everywhere. Let's see, the reference on the left is, I have no idea. I found I found those earlier today because I just wanted, no, well, earlier today because it was about 3 o'clock in the morning. I just wanted to have those just for me and, well, for people to see what it is I might try to be doing here. Yeah, I'm going to go here. So again, some of our off-whites, look at that big old brush. Yes. Big old brush means, oh, look at this. Instead of just letting all that dry and having to do subsequent layers, what if we could just take this and, oh, have it blend for us, right? So instead of having that take, oh, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes-ish of blending, what if we just, again, nice wide filbert brush. This is that same, it's the same craft brush, by the way. Same craft brush. It's like a Swiss Army brush. Lets you do all kinds of different things with it. Lets you do all kinds of nifty stuff. And we're going to go a little lighter. But now we got ourselves a sharp point on it. You can still wet blend here. It all happens really quick. And think long, think wrong. Sometimes well, actually more than sometimes, most times, your instinct, your first instinct for a color to go somewhere, well, guess what? That's probably the right one. It's when you second guess yourself and go, I'm not so sure. No, I'll change. That's when bad things happen. Sometimes you just gotta trust your instincts. Because you can second guess yourself into next week if you want. Oh, the great reference for me, for someone like you who tends to not put enough contrast in it is a thing. Oh, fellow gunswoman for a long time is always use of contrast. Yeah, it's well, there's that the most, what would you say, the most obvious kind, and that is the light versus dark. Then you get to the next one, and that's your red versus green, right? Orange versus blue, those kind of contrasts. But there's also saturation contrasts. And I'm going to see if I can't find me something that's got some object source lighting in it here real quick for you. Where'd you go? Oh, here we go. So again, this is another case of, we did this with the Reaper Clear and liner paints. Lots of high saturation colors, right? But then we've got this is low saturation to do our thing with yield, boom, color intensity. So you still have all your lights and darks, all those shadows and everything else, but as we bring the color back, like you do, now, poof, you can see all those bright blues. That was a lot of the clear blue over here. That's this is on the YouTube channel. I have a whole bunch of the Marvel Crisis Protocol. So here's another example of kind of a saturation thing. So you can see we have some really highly saturated greens, and then up here the blues, or that bluish green, way less saturated. It gets more saturated over here. which literally leads you down into the eye, and then some more saturated color here yet. But we love, Kathy and I both use the Reaper clear liners a lot because, well, neither one of us has a bazillion colors. We just use a few, and we would much rather mix. Believe it or not, it's way easier in many ways. So many ways. Like right here. Okay, look at what we've got going on in his little trouser or his dress or whatever the heck it is that he's wearing here. You can see we've got that green that we were using in the skin up there. Instead of searching around for just the right green gray or something like that, why not just make it? Oh, and by the way, there's no white on the palette yet. There is no white. We have some light colors, and each one of them has a color. You've got the maggot white that's a little bit blue, and you've got the maiden flesh that's a little bit red. So see, we're just kind of right here. A little chain of highlights that runs down there. Let's get a few more lights over here. Now let's see. They are the most used paints, but then yeah, well, Kathy and I, we both now of course we both were 2D artists for the longest time, so mixing paint is something we're sort of used to. But it's really, boy, just don't psych yourself out because so many people will say, I just can't do it. And maybe if they just started with easier things too, that could also be helpful. Maybe starting with something that's not quite so difficult. Beef and Noel, is this dude Bones? He is. I wish he was Bones because he weighs a ton. This is a big old solid chunk of metal right here. I definitely wish he was Bones. Now, let's start to do some. Let's start thinking about some golds here. Oh, look, I've cleaned my brush for the first time in half an hour. That's literally the first time we have cleaned the brush. We're going to take some of these clears here. That's the yellow and the orange. And now I'm just going to start feeling my way through this, seeing what I want to be gold. I'm going to take the clear red and blue and other places and gems over the top of this, but for right now, I just want to get this shaded here with some, there's some of our red liner too. With the golds, you want to make sure that they've got some decent amount of saturation in them, which is where Mr. Fluorescent's going to help, and we'll throw that out there. That Bones was definitely a Rainbow Sculptor painted this guy in Bones years ago. Boy, it must have been so much lighter. Oh my gosh, so much easier. Now look at, you can see how it just kind of drives the
Hello,
palette.
little hobbits. Spark my ganja.
Thanks, Donald. Appreciate it. Thanks for the follow. Yes, Gandalf approves. All hobbits welcome here in Wappelville. And yes, it comes in pints. Now, let's do some more of our preliminary gold over here. Okay, I just want to see what's going to be. Are these guys going to be gold, or are those guys going to be maybe some kind of, probably not jade. Maybe they will be gold. But the nice thing is, we're just sort of feeling our way through this. And that's going to, yeah, we'll do the alternating blue on that too. These things here, I'm thinking definitely more of a gold. Let's get some orange into that too. We'll be getting some purples into our gold, some greens too. Yes, those are all part of golds, believe it or not. Like I said, a lot of this is actually not even really going to be gold. It's probably going to be different gemstone colors. But for right now, I'm just going to dust in a little bit of color here. Just a little hint of color. Oh, Rainbow says, glad you're showing this. I've always been too afraid to use fluorescent paints. Now, I've got a bunch of, especially the object source lighting type stuff and the Marvel Crisis Protocol. And, well, yeah, I used fluorescent paints on these guys. as well. So my Army of the Dead, it's a combination of super high saturation, fluorescent paints, along with, well, some rusting effects. Now here, there we go. So for something like this, when you want to do your lava stuff, well, it's really helpful to have your fluorescent paints for some of your object source lighting. If a color goes somewhere, it's got to go everywhere, especially faded ultramarine. It is still the most powerful color. It is unrivaled in its power. That's for sure. You can see this is the other advantage of the clear paints, because now we're seeing the clear part of clear paints. And oh, guess what? The fluorescent paints are also very clear as well. All of that preliminary shading that we did with those initial washes, guess what? That starts to all show through. So we're still taking advantage of that initial glaze, wash, whatever you want to call it, that was done, well, about what, 30 some odd minutes ago, maybe? Still able to take advantage of that. Here, let's just throw some of our golds here. And like I said, having that fluorescent in there, it just gives it a little extra bit of kick. And we're going to keep using our big old brush. There's just going to be a lot of decisions to make pretty soon as to, okay, what happens with these? Is that all going to be blue, or is that going to be kind of an alternating between, say, red and blue? I'll go with that, maybe. What's weird is I haven't actually painted the so-called traditional Egyptian thing in a long time. But look at this. So see how dark all that is, but yet, see how it shows through? It's that much less shading that I gotta screw around with here. That much less shade. Look at this. See how that shows through? Because I'm just, now watch, we'll take some of this here. Again, this is the clear yellow. It's mixed with the fluorescent. And it's all sort of a wet blend right here. So say we're getting just that shading. Hey, it's Bethany, how's it going? Good morrow. Well, it was just the usual kind of messy stuff with these sponges. We're shifting over to the clear and liner paints this time because it's been a while since I used those. But otherwise, the beginning was sort of the usual messy way. Well, as you can tell by my hands. And I was showing some of the base too. So he is going on this base right here, and this is a combination of different Green Stuff World products here. So where's that texture roller at? No, that's the Chinese one. Here's the Egyptian one. So there's your texture roller there. This is for the new folks that came in and didn't get to see the beginning. And we used, where's my Sculpey? So here's your gray extra firm Sculpey. You bake it in the oven. After you roll it out into sheets, oh, like this. Nice sheets, gray Sculpey right there. And we've got a Celtic, kind of a dwarf rune theme right here. This is all that's left of my Egyptian roller piece right here, but you can see all of the, very nice. Nice thing is you can just break it up, right? And that, oh, the head on there is also from Green Stuff World. They have packs that kind of match some of the rollers. This is the Celtic themed right here. So I'll show those periodically as we go through this here. But let's keep working on some of our golds here as we develop this. And you can see the impact that's just a little bit of the maiden flesh. Again, no white is on this yet whatsoever. But by virtue of some of that fluorescent paint, it sort of made the clears that much more of an intense color. So I'm looking at that. I thought that was some kind of armor. That's really just some kind of scales there or something, whatever. Here, still have to decide what's going to happen with that. But I don't have to do that right now. That is the nice thing about this too, is that there's a lot of flexibility provided with this. When you take this approach, you don't have to commit to, all right, now I'm locked. I'm locked into this color gold, or this red's got to go here. No, if I don't like it, I can just change it. No problem. So let's go. Just trying to get some golds right in here that are extra intense towards the top of his head, like you do. Let's go right along the sides. Bring out some more of these. Some more of the orange in here. So there will be a couple of times where, and there might even be some areas that I just don't even try to paint because I'll be putting a little bit too much strain on the pin that's in this dowel rod, and I really don't want him falling off or spinning or anything like that, because that would take a lot of time to glue back on. But at this point, now, okay, we're talking clear blue and such. Let's get a little bit of blue liner in here and some of our clear blue, and let's see what happens when we start to do some alternate blue and reds here. So I'll make the one to the left. We'll make that one be a red. Let's do this one in our blue. And you can see this is that same big old craft brush that we've been using this entire time. Because it's that Swiss Army brush that I was telling you about. It can be a nice little point like this. It can be basically flattened out into a filbert style brush. Or something in between. That is the fantastic thing about these brushes. I absolutely love them. And boy, do they take a beating. They take a beating so that your Winsor Newton Series 7s don't have to, basically. Now, I've got to figure out, alright, this one is going to be blue here. And it's going to have a really interesting dramatic effect on all of our surrounding yellows. Look at how much lighter all those yellows seem. I don't know, always did enjoy the Egyptian theme. I don't know what it is about it. Especially with the basing. That's why my Tomb Kings, if you check out my Instagram page, one of my latest posts was all about my Tomb Kings army that I made several years ago. And the bases for that, I really had a whole bunch of fun doing the basing. So here's our kind of alternating blue and gold stripes. We'll do more on those, but yeah, let's not forget where these are. Okay, so these don't really necessarily match per se. We're just gonna have to do these alternating here, and yeah, we'll just do that. Okay. Oh, let's get the rest of his head crest here. I don't want to focus too much on little tiny things. I want to get more of this broad ranging stuff here, showing you how you can take advantage of the big brushes working fast. Because once you have that structure in place, well then you want to spend 20 more hours painting this guy. Well, you can, but you've got that framework in place, and that's just really, really important. Okay, first off, we'll do this guy here. Let's see, yeah, the basing stuff, the texture rollers. There's Roman, there's Necron, there's basically just anything you can imagine, it exists. There's even sort of a cashmere theme, so many different themes. Okay, so if these are going to be blue, then I've got to go red on these outer ones there. Let us do maybe some alternating. I would just alternate blue and red here too. Kind of keep that theme working. Let's switch this over to the opposite side. Yep, go this way. Gotta decide what to do with that. Do I make that just go? No, no. There's so much gold in there already. Well, we're just gonna go. What the heck? We'll go with some blue here, and then maybe even do some red on the wings. I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna do a blue here. Why not? Yeah. I wanted to have something that's a little bit darker. So here we've got the blue liner, mixing it with the clear blue. And even now, we can still have some of that initial glaze still shows through even at this point. Because, well, that is the beauty of the clear paints. They're very intense colors, don't get me wrong, but they're not going to just obliterate what's underneath. Now what you can do, let's say you want them to be a little more opaque, well that's where you take some of those lighter opaques like the maggot white, the maiden flesh, you mix that in and it can just be a tiny little bit. And you'll probably, well you're going to see that as I work with more of the blue here. Now do I want to, I'm just going to have that be one straight thing of blue here. Really don't want to get into alternating blue and red. So let's make that entire line be the blue gems. And he's got these. Nope, it's not quite the same. It is different. I guess I can still try to work in some of the green as well. I also got to figure out his staff here. What's going to happen with that? What's going to happen with that? Let's just go. We'll alternate blue and red here too. So that one, blue, again here. It's got that, was that the lotus leaf, right? That's what that all is supposed to represent, I believe. Just even this, just this amount of blue right here starts to contrast with our gold. Not just a light versus dark, but, well, yellow versus blue. That multiple forms of contrast that we're always talking about, not just light versus dark. This is sort of still a kind of a traditional outlook on things like contrast, just a yellow versus blue. Oh, well, that would be gold. If we do, let's do these also. And at this point, I'm still basically referring to this as a shaded base coat. I'm still not even thinking of this as any kind of finished final. I'm just going to make those, let's just go with blue on those guys too. Can always, again, change that around later. It's still early stages on this guy. But we've already got some stuff going on with the skin tone. We've got a lot of structure in place. Now let's start to hit some of the reds. Do the same thing. Oh, look at this. We got clear red over here. And we got red liner. And we'll mix them together. We get a nice, deep, rich red. Let's see where we can stash this. And that's really going to change up. Just adding this one color. But it's not like we haven't used red elsewhere. Because remember, we've used red liner in a lot of our skin tone already. So red already exists here. We're just putting a more saturated version of it in a few places. How's about, there we go, some red there. We're going to go here too. And I might still maybe even alternate those as, say, gold and red. But for now, I'm just going to go keep it more of a simple arrangement here. We're going to give these tassels a little bit of a red, and then we've got these in his little headdress. Now, if you're comfortable with a smaller brush, you don't have to use the big old craft brush for everything like this. I mean, you do what you do. You don't have to always do everything like what you see in, well, a given video or whatever. Just take some of the things, take some of the ideas, incorporate it into what you do. Now, we did want to have this also be alternating here too, between the red and the blue. Still have to figure out what's going to happen with that. Still haven't quite figured that out yet, but as I do these little things, that starts to become clearer and clearer. Oh, but he gets distracted, not feeling well. What paints am I using for the blue and red? It's the blue is clear blue, darken with the blue liner, and the red is clear red, darken with the red liner. Now, if I used, say, brown liner with the red, I would get a red that's a little more, oh, I guess you could say dirty, necessarily. I could have used maybe even clear purple to darken the red. There's so many ways to darken it, besides just, well, finding another red. That's a case where mixing your own red is really, it's not all that hard. Really not that hard. Where else oh yeah, we wanted some alternating red and blue here. I mean, there is the whole Ra thing and sun god theme, so I'm sort of staying away from the greens maybe a bit here. Might throw some in. Might throw some of those in, but you know what, I'm going to go maybe actually almost a white or something. Yeah, get some of his cloak coat and the lotus part of this. That's not a bad idea. That's not a bad plan. We'll do that. Sorry that you are not feeling so hot right now. Speaking of that, I hopefully the weather is not, it's not getting to be one of those 100 degrees and fire season yet again. And that was just brutal there for a while. I mean, I know that it's supposed to be basically fall and starting to work its way towards winter. But everything just seems to be very topsy-turvy these days. Almost forgot that red there. Anywhere else? You know, I think I will. Again, this is another one of the things where I just sort of changed my mind. I'll just change that over to a red as well. And that's anywhere else where I want to just make these little notations. Okay, so what we're going to do then, go back to some of our green over here. Let's do this lotus design here. Shaping up to be wet and cold winter here. Well, you can have all of the wetness from here. You can have every drop of rain because there's been way too many of them here. You can have all of it for the next 6 to 8 months if you would like it, maybe even longer. Depends what you need. If you want 10 months of nonstop rain, we have it for you right here. Yeah, I'm going to go with the blue in there, a little bit of an accent there. For Mr. Lotus flower, boom. Now, I'm just going to move my water elsewhere here. You can, every time I reach over there, that's me reaching for water. So it talked about, remember, lightening up these other clears and making them more opaque. So look what happens here. There's just a tiny bit of the maggot white added into the blue, and boy, that really changes it. That really changes it. We use hydropower in my state, so we take all the rain to refill our dams. Ooh, yeah, that's kind of important there. The electricity is much more convenient for trying to watch live streams than not. That's for sure. So now we're going to start to think about, again, lightening up all of these blues here. And if I want, let's see if we can't maybe take advantage of a little wet blending like we did before. Because we can. Look at that. So remember how dark that was? We don't need 10 different blues here. We used 2. We used clear blue. We used the maggot white. And look at all these nifty different colors we're getting. If I was to use not the maggot white, the maiden flesh, I would get a slightly different lighter blue out of it. This is going to be more of a true blue here because we're using, look at the difference. That just one little quick swipe along there makes such a huge difference straight away. But we've got all the darks are in place. All these differences in the blues between light and dark and color wise. This 1, 2, 3, boom. 3 colors, all the different kind of blues we could want, ranging from the lightest to the darkest, not needing a bazillion jars of paint. Because my goodness, I just see so many people with these hundreds of jars of paint. I'm like, what in the world are you going to do with all those? Yeah, you might have it for your one project or whatever. That's great, but then are you stuck with that color for however many years until the paint just dries in the jar? So remember here, it had kind of a greenish look to it because, well, it's a clear blue. We added some of the lighter color. Now it's opaque. Now, not so green anymore. How's about we add some more of our clear blue mix over here? And this starts to come to life. Remember what he was like when we first started out? He was just kind of a bunch of different shades of brown, not really looking all that interesting. And next thing you know, much more interesting. Donald Bain asks, you are using the Reaper liner paints. What are the clear paints? It's also from Reaper. It's the clear red, clear yellow. This is one of the newer ones here, clear orange. There's also a clear purple and clear green. These eventually will be out on the palette too, I think. And there's your clear blue. These are the colors that I use the most. If you check out the YouTube channel, you will see tons and tons and tons of videos using the clear and liner paints. Just lots of them because, as you can see, they give me a lot of flexibility. They let me do a whole bunch with not a lot of colors. Let's say I've got to match this color scheme years from now. It's going to be real easy to remember what colors I used. Oh, thanks, Gil. Appreciate it. It's what's nice is they have that interesting combination of being intense colors, but enough translucency to let you do some other things with them. And then when you combine them like this with the opaques, now I can start to pick out more individual stones here. And we have not yet begun to lighten anything. We're still working basically in mid-tones right here. Speaking of which, let's get ourselves some more of our lighter blues into his headdress here. Yeah, I wish I didn't have to grab onto him like this, but it's a gigantic, well, it's not gigantic, but he weighs a ton because it's all pewter. It is all pewter. But like I said, if you want to see some bones things here, let's just get down to the gallery here real quick. So, poof, these are your prototypical Bones figures. The smushy plastic there, another Bones figure, and another Bones. Yes, that is a Bones figure. I just stuck him on the base, painted him up, boom. You can do nice things on Bones figures. I wish more people kind of gave them that chance, and that they thought maybe of doing some more fancy stuff with their Bones. They're not just for giving to your kids so that they can just slap paint on them and throw them across the floor. You can do more with those. So we start to lighten our blues even some more. But because we got all of the, I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do there gold wise. Because we did that initial preliminary sort of a glaze, all of this, it's just a matter of adding that middle tone, some of the lights, doing some little tinting here and there. Yeah, I could add freehand to that, I guess, if I wanted to. Let's get this sash slash belt, and let's hit it with some kind of brown here real quick. So we're gonna take the red liner, gonna take the green liner here. Just made our own little dark brown. I just noticed there's a whole lot of nothing right there. And now there's something there, and it's also, there we go. To lighten up the reds, and that's another thing that people seem to really have a bugaboo there. It turns pink, gets chalky, blah blah blah. That's where the clear paints can also help you out again, because when you add, say, something like the clear yellow and the clear red together, it's going to make your red a little bit lighter. And I'll show you that. It's going to take me, I'm going to have to really scroll here. Aha. 1 second. There. So that, all those reds there, that's another example of the Reaper clear red, the clear yellow. You can see those, nothing turned pink there. I used the clear, or the blue liner and brown liner in the shadow areas there, so we have plenty of nifty lights and darks in our red. And the greens, that's actually the fluorescent green from Golden Acrylics right there. So we'll do some more here. How's about just thinking in my head here, what do we, let's mess with the red now. We've been talking about it, let's mess with it. So we're going to put that over here. We are going to take, again, some of our clear yellow over here. And you can see how that starts to make the red a little bit lighter. I can even, if I want, a little bit of orange. And then as we move that into our reds here, you can see it lightens it up. But because it is clear, it's almost like we're making a glaze. Never forget, I forget exactly when it was years ago that I realized that a glaze is not always making something darker. It can be making something lighter, and that's what I'm doing here. That's what we're going to do. We're going to make this lighter glaze. We get that nice little subtle difference. Again, not chalky. Not going to be chalky because, I am going to maybe get a little variation between red and green on those, just for the heck of it. So I can add some more of the yellow in there. Can do the same thing here on the headdress. We're also going to get some more shading into our golds there. As we develop the blue, now we're going to work on developing some lights in our reds, like you do. Still got to figure out what's happening there. Maybe I'll make that. I might just, I'll hit that red. Why not? We'll just do that. Gotta figure out what's happening here. Maybe that's just gonna be your different shades of gold. I see another sort of a lotus flowery type theme there. Let's do this side of his staff, mace. Not sure what it could be. Now, let's see if I use the not the maiden flesh, but the say the maggot white maybe to lighten this red. It wouldn't really turn pink, but it would be more of a burgundy instead of this brighter, more orange red. Even look at this. We can even take some of our fluorescent here. Now I'm going to take just a touch of that maiden flesh, because again that makes it more opaque, makes it lighter. Still using our big old brush here. And we'll do some more of our lights here. That's about a bit more. Yeah. Got these tassels sitting up here. Gotta figure out what I'm gonna do with his face. And I'm looking at all of the references. Got a lot of dark there. So we're gonna take some of that clear blue, some of the blue liner, sorry, and red liner. I'll just make this darker here. I'm looking at that go, yeah, let's just do this. I think that'll be a nicer contrast to all of the golds. Yeah, we'll go with this dark. Again, it's all subject to change. I might change my mind and make it completely different. I also am thinking about maybe some glowing eyes for him too. I'm looking at his beak. Which I'm thinking is going to be more, yeah, like this. So we'll make it darker here on the end. Let's see if we can just fade that real quick. Like we do. Doing a little bit of some wet blending here. So we'll get this, that's the maggot white, that bluish white while it's wet. I'll turn this into a bit of a filbert brush, and then look at that. We're just gonna wet blend that real quick, like bam. We don't have to struggle. We don't have to do a bazillion layers and layers and layers of stuff. It can be faster. It can be easier. Now I'm just gonna get just something lighter there, and I think I might grab that, maybe the fluorescent green there. What do I do? Yeah, I'm gonna throw some of that out here. So again, this is the golden acrylics fluorescent green, and I use it in a lot of things too. It's not just for making things glow. This actually has an awful lot of this in it. Let's see, is that the same brush you painted your house with? Oh, good grief, I'd never use a brush this large for my house. Come on. Why would you do that? You lose all the details. Let's see. But, man, this one here, we've done an awful lot with this guy. I mean, look at when this thing spreads out to a filbert shape. I mean, that is nifty. But I will show this. Okay, I'll show this. Let's get a little bit of water on here, so you can get this nice wide or gigantic brush, right? Gigantic brush, tiny lines, tiny little lines. It can be done. It just was done. Here we've got our little teensy bit of fluorescent out here. Touch of that blue. Get some action here with the eyes, so that those have a little bit of a glow to them. And now we will take some of this green. That's going to go into our golds. And And it doesn't even look green. As we add this in there, most people will never ever know that fluorescent green was just added to these golds. They'll just see it as some other form of gold. That's it. They're not even going to notice. Let's fill in some of these other lotus details over here. Again with this crazy greenish gold. Still working with the big old brush. Still working with that. Eventually, the brush will get smaller. I don't promise anything, but eventually it will. Oh, we're just going to look here, make sure. I think we got all of the chat things caught up. This is where I really want to have some of this green is over here. Boom, there we go. Just like that. It's one way to sort of incorporate your yellow and blue together. I'm gonna get some of that here too. We're gonna double down a bit on that. Gonna make it even, touch lighter. Kind of a light to dark to light, but this lighter color also has a bit of greenishness to it. I think you can see a little arc of lighter color there. Take some of that maggot white. We'll maybe make it even lighter. Even lighter. Well, yeah, we're gonna get another little arc of that. Maybe there's something that's reflecting there. And then this is a little. Kathy was the first one to do Sky Earth Gems. I'll never forget, that was years ago when was it War Gods of Egyptus? That's what it was. Yes, it was War Gods of Egyptus. And I really like theirs. Well, it's still around. It's not like it's not around anymore. Yeah, let's make this a bit more interesting now with some lighter blues. We have all the darker blues in place. That's the advantage of, like I said, starting out with those darker glazes, broader mixes. I'm gonna get some lighter blues here. So instead of painting one isolated little area of a figure and then you kind of lock yourself, you're trapped now. Because if you've painted all of the face, well, now if you paint the cloak too light or too dark, your face is going to look really weird. Because as you were painting it, you didn't have the cloak next to it to compare to. And see, we got this nice little arc there, real quick like. War Gods of Egyptus. Well, let's see, what's the new one? War Gods of War Gods of Olympus. That's the new one, right? I wish I had some of those because I really liked those. Actually, all of them were really neat. The Amazons also were neat because they had some really nifty armor. I think we painted one of them. Let's work a little bit of transition in our blues here. And again, this figure right here, even with all the talking and everything else, we are just an hour and 10-ish minutes of actual real painting time here. There. Can keep going in here, and I'm going to do a little bit of a glaze on the headdress here, on this little ponytail type thing. Now we're going to get in some of our, we've been waiting to get to that clear purple over here, and that's always handy for glazing some golds. Is Goobertown in the house? I didn't see Goobertown, but welcome if you're in the chat there. Oh, I just assembled some Crocs yesterday. I just like their figures. Well, it's kind of a nostalgia thing too because you have some of the old days of GW sculpting, some of those really old days. Yeah, let's again. That's the clear purple over here. I promised you. Did I not promise there would be purple in your golds? Well, now you're getting your purples, and it's a clear. It's that clear paint. So when we do something like that, all we had to do is add some water to it, and poof, it does more than just darken it. Now it's shifting that color a bit. See, and we add some orange with their clear purple here, and we get this kind of nifty, almost like a sepia type of color. Oh, let's do a little touch of glazing with that too. So we went from adding greens to our golds with the whole fluorescent deal. And now we're adding purples to our golds as promised. Sometimes I lie, sometimes I keep my promises. Usually the lies extend to me not doing object source lighting, and then next thing you know there is object source lighting. We do object source lighting. I think is also called Bethany Bane or Bethany's Bane. Well, we'll just call it that. I said I gotta get me some. Oh, I gotta extend the blue. Oh, I see. I have to get maybe some reds into there. But we're gonna continue with our purple excursion over here. Again, purple mixed with the clear orange, and remember the whole thing with the sponges that we did early on. I thought just necessarily for the beginning, because here, let's just cut this up. Take some of it away. It's obviously at the beginning is a really nifty thing, but even now, so we started with a glaze, then we did some more opaque things, we did some wet things, but we're sort of going back to the glazing again. I know I'll see some folks, they just think, okay, this is the glazing point. You know, this is where you dry brush this is where you glaze that, and then you don't do any of those things at any other stage. I'm thinking that's a bit like saying, you know what, it was really great driving with 4 wheels on this car, but now it's time to just have 3 wheels. Oh, heck, let's just go with 2. It doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense to me. Why would just kind of be like shedding parts along the way? And look, we're going to use the purple now. We're going to glaze some purple over in here. Remember I was talking about that red can be made different? Well, we just changed it again that time by just throwing in some of our clear purple. Oh, and look, I promised you more purple on your golds, right? Promising you purple on your blue. Well, they take some of that orange, some of the purple. Let's see if we can't get a touch. Look at how clear this is. Look at, see, that's but it's not a glaze necessarily because there's not a bunch of water flowing all over the place, right? Not a whole lot of water. Easy to control. Again, the benefit of those clears. Now, I know for some folks, especially those on other continents, not named North America, the Reaper stuff, not the easiest to get. If you're looking for sort of equivalent to this, the closest has definitely been the Pro Acryl transparent paints. Who would have thought? Pro Acryl transparent paint similar to Reaper clear paint. So those are similar things. Let's see, do I have? Aha, boom. So, transparent orange. Been using these in a whole bunch of demos recently or videos and such. So, on the YouTube channel and here, been using them a lot. Now, we went back in here and we did some darkening. Let's see what we can do to reclaim some lighter colors here. Now that we just did a little bit of a glaze there, let's bring that back. Let's see what we got going on in here. So just a quick little glaze. Yeah, I'm going to go with that green again because nothing says gold more like green. Oh, thanks, Crash and Burn. Appreciate it. I've been really wanting to. I've been saving this guy. It was originally saved for a YouTube live, but YouTube kind of just went. They kind of lost their minds and over the last month or so, and it's just not a good idea to be doing any kind of live sessions over there. So we brought the party over to here. We brought the party to Twitch, and that's where it shall stay because we can do well. What was the last marathon stream was 5.5 hours long. Yeah, there was that. So that was a thing that we did. Oh, Loim is going to have to finish it off later. Well, thanks for joining in, especially since you were first in. Take care. Let's get some of our lighter stuff going on here with our Lotus. Once again, to me, this is a glaze. It's not watery. It's not dark, but it's transparent. I'm actually letting what's underneath show through here. And I think you can see that. I think you can still see that. Now, I haven't messed with the skin tone in a while. We'll probably get back into him too. I'm gonna get some lights here on our falcon's face. Nope, I'm gonna leave those as dark as possible. But I am gonna try and get some of my fluorescent green in there just for now, real quick like. Then, oh, where's my green liner? There it is. Some green liner for this. Here we go, to set that. If you want to have light, you must have dark, and vice versa. You can lighten things all you want. You can be using as much white as you want to use. Eventually, you gotta use something that's darker. Otherwise, you're not gonna have a whole lot of luck. Now, look at this. We're gonna take some of this green liner, this dark green, and we're going to use that to shade the underside of some of the armor there until, well, we're going to do something different now. We took some of the orange here. Think about some reflected light, maybe. Reflected light over here. And who would have thought that orange and green makes a really nifty brown? Red and green make brown. Oh, Zambi's Kathy are trying to get kids to bed. Oh, that's a Kathy question. She has to answer that one. I think Doctor Who, if it's 7 o'clock, well, no, there's still one more Doctor Who episode. Because I could hear a little bit of the theme song in the background. Let's see, I've got to remember, what was my sound? There's at some point, I'm hoping that the Rohan theme song plays. I forget what that's for. I don't quite remember. It's for one of my sounds, one of my notification sounds. Oh, we haven't heard the Battlestar Galactica one yet either. I don't think I did the by your command. I might rotate through the sounds also. So maybe they start out being more Lord of the Ringsy. Then maybe they start to go towards a Battlestar Galactica. Who knows? Maybe I can find Babylon 5 sounds. All right. This is, again, clear blue. Now what I'm starting to do is darken some things down. And it's just straight clear blue. It's all it is. Straight up clear blue. What about some... I'd sometimes call it a dry glaze. Let's see that we made it even more transparent. Let's see if I can... Some of these guys here. Yep. it's just so much easier sometimes. You make things almost like a mid-tone there. Look at this. We're just doing a little bit of a swipe here. And even take some of that away. I could use my makeup sponges if I wanted to. Now let's see if we can't get this blue to be a little bit more intense. Remember, we're always talking about the intensity of colors. It's not just light and dark is not enough. You want to also have that intensity working. And that's what we're starting to bring back here a little bit to our blues in the headdress. Just bringing back a little bit of that. And then we're going to do, we haven't done our little black and white trick in a while, so let's do that right here. So you can see as we take our saturation out of this, zoink, you've got lots of nice shade. You can see lights and darks developing here. And we have, like I said, we have yet to begin to highlight. But then as we bring this color intensity back, now you start to see some of that activity in the blues. It's Crash and Burn S, so when painting minis, there's a color scheme to follow for each figure. There is, it's anything you want it to be. Now, when I'm doing commission stuff, especially if it's for a company, because they have their own art, their own concept art, their own lore, whatever. So if you're painting for a company, that's going to be the most restrictive. You pretty much rarely get the, oh yeah, just do whatever you want with it. For me, my obsession is any kind of color scheme has to be a color scheme that I have not seen before. Which that's if you can check out my Instagram, that's just Wappelius Instagram. It's right there, little address on the window or on my screen there. One of the latest things that I posted was some of my old Tomb Kings army, and that's where you can see that it's not your regular ordinary Tomb Kings. I ran across a documentary on the Silver Pharaoh, and the whole entire Tomb King's army was basically born from that. It was literally they almost look a little bit like Necrons. Okay, so we've been using the big old brush all this time, right? I think I'm actually going to go back to my skin tones here real quick. Just going to go back to those. We haven't played with those in a while. Let's do that. Let's see just how much lighter we maybe want these to be. If we haven't messed with these since the very beginning, it's been about an hour and 15 minutes. It's Warmonger. How you doing? Okay, I'm having some fun here with getting back into my Reaper clears and liners. It's been a while since I've been able to fool around with those. Now I think my next army painting series might also be all about the clear and liner paints, because I haven't had a chance to use those in a while. And my previous couple of series were more pro acryls and oils and that sort of thing. Actually, the current series I've got going on right now for the Patreon page is oils, so I think I might go to Reaper Clear and liner paints for that. Oh, Crash and Burn, I'm just getting started painting minis and trying to learn some techniques. Now, this is not going to be your usual stuff. In fact, we were debating on calling the Twitch channel the Subversive Painter, because this is not what you normally see. This is not the typical.
Hello, little hobbits. Spark my ganja.
Thank you for the follow, Shadow Hunter. Appreciate it. And thanks for making my new sound go off. I'm not, I don't know if I'm ever going to change that one, because that one entertains me. That one really entertains me. Now, it's not a bad idea to sometimes look around at other, back in the day, we used to look at Cool Mini all the time, because they had lots of, thousands of painters quite literally posting stuff all the time. And you had your high level painters, that sort of thing. We just talked about this earlier today. But some of the nifty painters actually were the ones that were not the ones that were going to get all the high scores. Their ideas were good. Maybe they weren't experienced enough to make it all play out the way they wanted to, but it certainly didn't invalidate their ideas. As I get some greens in here, so sometimes that's a good place. You just look around for inspiration. I know for us, we started to, like for me, doing armor. Once I found all these different cosplaying folks that do actual armor.
Hello, little hobbits. Spark my ganja.
Just Dices. Actually, speaking of painters that you'll want to follow, go follow Just Dices because she does all the nifty painting thing. We even painted the same miniature, like I don't know, a month apart or even less than a month apart, and that was a really cool artisan design figure. So yes, go follow Just Dices, and you can even on the I believe the Xenelos project, you can see her doing some role playing there too, some online D&D, which is really cool. But typically, actually, as I'm sort of trying to crawl out of bed in the mornings, Kathy usually has Just Dices on in the mornings, into the afternoon. There's Altera. Speaking of the devil, look at that. Look at that. Well, we'll let them greet each other there. Now we need to get some. We're gonna add some lights over here to these guys because we did that darkening of them. Oh, and by the way, there's some fluorescent green in this. So remember, I promised you green in the golds. Well, you're going to get it. You're going to get that green. However, that green's going to be supplemented with some orange. Because remember, opposites. We're thinking opposites to get more contrasted besides just light and dark. It's not like it's light and dark contrast alone is terrible, but it's kind of boring after a while. And if you can pop in some of that, oh yeah, just a little extra bit. Now, you know what? Speaking of green, nope, we're going to go with some red here. So we're going to take our red liner and clear red mix, and we're just going to go zoink right here because I'm thinking that's another one of those, it's a color contrast, not a value contrast. Yeah, we'll do that there. And yeah, we've been painting an hour and a half with big gigantic brushes. Boom, boom, boom. This is what we started with here, number 12 round craft brush, and now we're working with our small brush. Yeah, the small brush, the number 8 round craft brush. As I get a little bit of green into this. So let's see if we can't do a bit of wet blending here. So I guess I'm thinking of this as sort of like a black leather because I just was doing that on a different miniature in a video tutorial. So I'm going to try that here real quick. Oh, you know what? That's good for my golds too. Yes, I'm using a dark green in my golds and then on my skin because you do that. Oh, let's get one more extra pop of light into that. This is the advantage. Brush goes into a filbert like that, and I can do this nice long, smooth brush stroke. See what we can do on the skin over here. Make some of this a bit lighter. Don't want to lose all those fun little areas of greens and reds that we had either. Now back to some of our yellows again. It's gold. We want to have some things reflect. Ah, Crash and Burn just follow Dices as you should. Yes, definitely follow just Dices. I mean, so she's been doing Twitch way longer than I have. That's for sure. Actually, I would hear this and say, "Who is that? What is that?" And Kathy would be listening to just Dices, and I'm like, "Wow, they're painting miniatures on Twitch. That's very cool." So then, of course, I had to just try messing around with it too. Kathy's been doing that for the longest time. So, but Kathy goes on as More Than Dice, and Kathy can put all her info in the chat there. Her time is weekdays, Tuesday through Friday, from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Central. I tend to work the night shift. That is that I'm the denizen of the night. Now, speaking of night and making things dark, we're gonna do that here with this. Not necessarily like a sky earth kind of thing, but just well, we need a shadow there kind of thing. Something else besides just the same brightness everywhere. We're going to some close-ups of the troll painted with the oils. Well, actually, you can see the troll himself. Let's not knock everything off of here. So here we go. So this is actually the last. Let me hold it by the base. This is the last live stream. So we painted the troll in oils. And see some of your blends right there. Talk about your wet blending. But then I did actually another subsequent video. This is for the patrons. So I sculpted the mushrooms. And I sculpted this shelf fungus right here. Man, that was fun. That was a blast. And then the tree foliage here, or vellum plants from Wicked Elf Studios. So that was my latest Patreon video that I just loaded up yesterday. And the link is right there, sitting there on the screen. And I do these type of things all the time, just trying to find new ways, new approaches to basing, new approaches to effects, that sort of thing. This gold is devoid of red, so we shall rectify that by, well, adding some red into our gold, like you do. It's a natural thing. Oh, thanks, Crash and Burn. I appreciate that. It's, well, again, this big old brush lets me either work fast or, and look at this, I can even get a bigger brush out of it. And look at that. There's like 3 or 4 colors there because I didn't wash my brush. So it's green here, and it's darker, so I literally have just one brush stroke has multiple colors to it. That's why you've seen me. How many times have I washed my brush? Not too many. Oh, Lady B is also in Wappelville. Welcome. I've got to figure out what do I want to do.
Hello, little hobbits. Spark my ganja.
I recognize that name there. I think I always would say Rage Wolf every time I would see that. And of course, I'm sure you're absolutely sick and tired of people probably doing that to that name. But I do appreciate the follow. And obviously, Gandalf does. And man, do I love that sound. That is just never going to get old for me. Oh, let's do some more with our fluorescent yellows here. Why not? We haven't really messed with those very much now, have we? Well, at least not in the last few minutes. Let's see how we add a little kind of a... It's a little bit of a... I just kind of call those a spectral highlight. There we go. I've been waiting like an hour and a half to hear that sound. Thank you for the host, Just Dices. Go follow Just Dices because she just mustered the Rohirrim. So thanks for bringing in the Rohirrim. I've been waiting to hear that song, well, snippet, for a long time. Just glad my sounds work. Speaking of Rohirrim, where's my guys here? Where's my guys? There we go. We have mustered the Rohirrim. Boom. Well, actually, we can do more than just that. We can really muster the Rohirrim here. Oh, there we go. Zoink. There we go. There's your Rohan. That is one of my army painting series. Get a little bit close up there. So I started with the infantry. Now I've been working on the cavalry. And actually, some of my first Twitch streams were Rohan cavalry. And I'm actually going to be doing some sculpting episodes because I want to convert some of those regular cheapo plastic Riders of Rohan into Royal Guard. I just kind of got the itch for sculpting after the basing tutorial that I did, where I sculpted some bases to have that sort of Gondorian or Numenorian look to them. They were originally, I think they were Greek hoplites, and I completely changed their helmets around, which is these bases here. Just give me a second. Aha. So it's that base right there. So again, that was originally a Greek hoplite, and then we sort of changed it around. And that was my, my marble bases with the swans. So that is my latest army painting series that just started last week. We're going to be doing the color test figure on that next. But right now, I'm going to bring up a few more of my skin tones here. So I'm glad I didn't go with the sort of onyx or whatever, that really dark bluish black that I originally thought of. And there's plenty, I've done that plenty of times on Anubis style figures before. Oh, well, that's yeah, that's your Gandalf there. Tricksy hobbitses. Very tricksy hobbitses. I know people are saying, hey, when are you ever going to get to that smaller brush? You've been at this for almost a couple hours now, just using these big old brushes. Well, we can. But right now I'm having some fun combining a wee bit of, look at that, clear orange with the fluorescent yellow. And there's plenty of other fluorescents here too. There's your fluorescent magenta and a fluorescent orange. Just going to give me something to drink here real quick. Oh yeah, and I use this, so the fluorescent green on our Army of the Dead because they're Army of the Dead. Uh-oh, Nessie's in the house. Uh-oh, well, you know what happens then. It's like dun dun dum 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 dum. Boom. Faded ultramarine. It jumps onto the palette. That's what it does. Because it's the most powerful color ever. Now, we're almost a couple hours into this. Let's see if we'll just throw a little bit of our white out there. And oh my gosh, we might use a smaller brush. We might just do that. So here's some yellow combined with our newly acquired white. Let's start to do some actual highlighting, because none of the stuff that we put on here is really actually a highlight. There's some light middle tones out here, and maybe some things that are borderline highlight, but no actual honest to goodness highlights yet. Because if you hang on to that, if you just hang on to those highlights and don't be hasty, Treebeard says, don't be hasty. Don't want to be hasty. If you are patient, and then you get to do fun stuff like this. Here let's get some lights under our little bit of a scarab thing here. Let's bring this out. This is something we haven't messed with since that little purple wash that we did. Some more here. Let's get some. It's essentially kind of a reflected light there. Oh, let's do some more of that here too. And now we can even take some of the white, some of the fluorescent yellow. We've got that even brighter now. And this is where we can start to really have some fun, really bring out some of our lights here. Oh, that now I've seen people with the hype train. Actually, now sometimes there's a little song that plays. Now I can find. I'll go to Zedge and I will find some appropriate music to play. I just haven't had a chance to look into the whole hype train thing, but I've seen it. I think I've seen it on Thunderdome's stream. So I'm gonna have to. Oh, I want pancakes. Pancakes. Oh, we just had. Actually, I had pancakes earlier today with blueberries. Kathy can say that in Dutch. Well, maybe not with blueberry. Well, there's mit, but no, that's more Swiss. Or maybe it is mit. But Kathy can write that down in the stream and correct me because I don't know Dutch. I shouldn't say Pod Deutsch, which is really actually I don't know German and French. So yeah.
So say we all.
But we done got ourselves a subscription. It's Nessie. And so say we all. Boom. That's another one of my sounds I was working on. So thank you, Nessie, for making that sound go off.
Hello, little hobbits. Spark my ganja.
And we got ourselves a follow from Clockwork. Thank you very much. Are you still doing you're still doing the infinity figs, right, Nestor? Because I think that's what I saw earlier today posted as we get some of our, look at this, some of our clear purple here. It's not just for necessarily glazing. Let's use some of it on our reds here, sort of like what we did with the blue on the head crest. We're going to reinforce some lines. Here's some shading. We're even going to do that here on the wings a bit in some places. So it's a lot like what we were doing here. And speaking of which, we're going to try and do a few lines right in here to solidify this. Give it that extra little bump of separation like you do. Well, yeah, thanks again for the sub. I think that's the last of the sounds, because we've had a host from Just Dices, we've had the follows, we even had a raid from Just Dices. So you can see the difference, the structure that gives versus that. But all that other stuff in place first. I always talk about you're building a house. You are not going to start with drapes and roof tiles. Well, I guess you could. It'll be a very interesting looking house, that's for sure. But if you start with a foundation and you do some concrete and you do some rebar and you have some support beams, well, you get yourself a much stronger house. And then later on, you can go in there and do your drapes and window treatments, just like we did here. And after we've done that, now we can let's go back here. Because we've got this now more of a white, let's see what happens when we start to mix that with our clear blue. We get a slightly more of a reddish look to it. So it's a little less greenish, a little less towards the green. It's going to be, here, we'll make it even lighter. Make it even lighter, especially along this top edge here. There we go. Give that a bit more of an edge to it. We've got to do some more right here. And I'm going to, again, this is a slightly different blue. It's a little less greenish. A little less greenish. That is the clear blue mixed with essentially just a pure white. And we'll stick here for a little while and develop this. I'll develop this area a bit. I'm gonna get yet another batch of reflections down here. I'm gonna backtrack a wee bit here because we actually need some, just like we've got these bands of reflections and stuff here, we're going to do a similar thing here. Oh, let's see, 11 bus feels like such a big canvas. Let's see, how does one subscribe on Twitch? I think actually if you're, well, actually Kathy could probably say, but if you're in your home screen or whatever and you are, actually you can just subscribe. It should be, wait a minute. Doom, doom, doom. Well, now I'm just watching me, but there is, yeah, it should be kind of like my window where I think it's in the upper right-hand corner, maybe. Again, people that know Twitch better, they can explain. Oh, and oh, Sarge is in the house. How you doing? Yeah, now I've got to figure out, because that hype thing, because someone is, oh, hype train, and then music played, and I got music. Oh, I got, believe me, I went Zedge crazy, so I got music that can play. And if need be, we can make some Lord of the Rings figures just kind of dance around to that. I mean, we could have like Saruman and Gandalf just kind of dance to it. It would be like a dance off. It would be a.
So say we all! So say we all!
Well, there we go. We just have a subscribe. Thank you so much. See, subscribe.
So say we all! So say we all!
Like Sarge and Armored Wolf just did. I mean, that's like Adama approved right there. Yes, indeed. Because Adama knows. Now, he didn't necessarily know where Earth was. Now, that is one of the songs that I had, the whole sort of Jimi Hendrix type Watchtower Battlestar Galactica version of it. That's one of the sounds that I downloaded, so I don't know which song I might have to pick for the hype train. I don't think it's going to be Gollum singing his little sad song, because hype is supposed to be happy stuff. As we take clear red and clear orange. That was blood and chrome. That was really disappointed that never went beyond just those webisodes that they did. Here, let's get a little more of our clear yellow out here. Again, Reaper, clear yellow, poof, goes over there, mixing it with the red. Keeps the red from going pink, but makes the red brighter. And then makes it, then starts to get a little bit shiny. Starts to get a little bit of shiny going. Oh, and Nessie, are you still painting up your Marvel Crisis Protocol stuff? Because that is another thing. I haven't painted that yet here on the Twitches, and that's something I want to do. Because I've even got a couple of the taxis all prepped and ready to go. I think we got like the dumpster and the newspaper stand. I think that's all prepped, ready to go. Because I've got from Green Stuff World, they have these decals that are graffiti. And I thought that could be fun. Now, see how we get a little bit more of the clear yellow in there. It still keeps getting brighter. But that's not pink. Getting lighter. Not pink. Not pink. Not chalky. Not none of those terrible things.
Hello, little hobbits. Spark my ganja.
Meal Man, Thank you for the follow. Gandalf approves of that. He welcomes you into Wappelville, where we are doing some, as we would almost call this with Kathy, the kind of the sky earth gemstone. That would be hilarious to just be referred to it as that. But now I'm going to add a little bit of white there. We got plunge. Oh, you know what? We're going to take a little bit of the fluorescent, touch of that fluorescent yellow. That is going to want to keep it from getting chalky because it's fluorescent paint. You're just not going to get chalky with fluorescent. Not going to have the chalkies happen there. What I am going to do though, a little bit of reflected light down here. This itsy bit of gold that's there. So we're constantly doing these bands of lighter, darker things. Otherwise, that looks really boring. Such a huge area of these transitions. And, well, it's not necessarily even going to translate as something that is supposed to be shiny, like gemstones and all that sort of thing. I see I've got to restructure a couple of lines here. I think my thumb was probably in the way. Do I want to... I want to get some orange in here. But we're not going to use the clear orange. We're going to throw out a little bit of that because, I mean, why not? Let's just do that. Let's do it. There we go. Man, that's insane. It shows up really weird looking on the palette because it is just so intense. Wow. That's actually that in mixed with the purple can be real. Look at this. Look at that's the clear purple mixed with the fluorescent orange. Look at that. Look at that nice deep rich kind of a amber type of color, which is kind of perfect for what I wanted to do. Bam, right in there. Remember we talked about green versus red? How about fluorescent green and now basically fluorescent orange in our golds side by side? There's a contrast monster for you. Yeah, a contrast monster just walked in the room and said, I am taking charge here. You can't hide from the contrast monster. May have to make a picture of that or something when we have super contrast show up, because it's more than just light and dark. All right, it is time to go black and white. Now we got a lot of structure on this thing here. Let us go zoink, and we'll take away the color. But you can still see all the shape in there. It looks almost as shiny in black and white as it does in living color. Maybe even shinier. Oh, so any suggestions for a mini to do on my first attempt? I would actually suggest something that has a cloak. Just anything that has a cloak, and a cloak that doesn't have a lot of folds in it, because that's one way. It's a big, broad, open area. Well, it's kind of like this. You'll have a chance to lay down colors and mix things. Also, Nessie has to paint Thor and the rest of the North. Yeah, we don't have any of those guys. I think, oh gosh, I don't even know what they are. But we have I think it was the ones that were before that. We don't have any of those guys are out. Oh, I didn't even know they were out. Now we're going again. Some reflected light here, because, well, golds doing that. Now let's go back over into this side here, and we're gonna use a bit of our red mix to get back onto this head crest over here. Start to lighten some of this up. Adding in some of that yellow like you do. It kind of makes that red lighter, more towards the orange. Not so pink. Not quite looking for pink. Let's do some of this on the tassels now. And then we'll go back down into this area. So you notice how I don't just kind of linger in one spot. First of all, I mean, it'd be kind of boring to just see somebody for an hour painting on the same area, like the toe of a space marine. Don't mind me, that's it is one of my bugaboos. I just see people spending an hour on one tiny part of the miniature, not moving around, and that's where you just kind of get yourself locked in place. And you're literally kind of trapped in that part of the miniature. You kind of forget about everything else. Next thing you know, you've kind of overpainted one area, and all of a sudden you go, "Oh my goodness, do I have to go and glaze this thing down because I went too crazy with this over here?" It's best to just, again, work in an area and then move away. Get the heck away from that one area. You stay there too long, you're just going to, like I said, trap yourself mentally, visually in that one area. It's like you're putting painting blinders on. Thor, Valkyrie, Loki, and Hela. Holy smokes, man! Yeah, I haven't seen anything from that in a while, so I had no idea. Well, I might have to send some people some messages because that sounds like it would be very fun. I mean, I think we could have fun with that here. Speaking of fun, I'm gonna have fun starting to add some more of these nice pure reds in here. I'm just glad that my pin has held out. I really had to glue that thing in there because, again, this guy, big old hunk of metal, weighs a ton. Back to my yellow here. Let's see what we can do to get some separation here in this head crest over here. We're also going to have to work in the blues. Like I said, I didn't even want to get stuck down here. I'm going to just, a little bit there. Move on along. Don't get stuck in one spot.
So say we all.
As Donald Bain is also, thank you for the subscription. I appreciate it. It's definitely very helpful. Well, that's where more brushes, more miniatures, more better. All that support, very much appreciated. Now let's go with some lighter tone right in here. Let's see if I can really do some nifty stuff here on that edge and here. Like I said, you can use the bigger brush. Oh, Sarge says you'd make painting a Lego figure fun. Well, technically, I almost have painted a Lego figure. Do you remember those? Oh, what the heck? Rivet Wars. Because someone just last night was talking about Rivet Wars figures. I don't know if you remember those, but the very first painting videos I ever did were on Rivet Wars figures. And those things, they look an awful lot like Lego people. They really do. So technically, I guess I've done that. It was kind of crazy because their heads were quite literally that sort of Lego person head. Now, let's do this. So we got, we're gonna take our green liner here. Going to mix it with my maggot white. Again, all this Reaper paint here.
Hello, little hobbits. Spark my gun, John.
Thank you for the follow. Thank you for the follow, Bullis. It's appreciated. Now we're going to get more of the feather texture painted in there. We're going to start to maybe get some lighter colors on the beak. Also want to develop some of the lights in his eye. Now that we've got some white out on the palette too, which I'm going to get some more. No, I'm going to go with, take some of that over there. start to, again, look at this. We can get some more lights in here now. We barely hit touch this area. When you got something like this with all these things going on, I think it even gets more important not to let, because you can just get absorbed into one tiny little area of something and just kind of forget everything else. And the next thing you know, well, let's say you're doing object source lighting and you go, well, that's just nifty because all that stuff's going to get object source lighting on it. I didn't need to paint any of that. So that's another handy thing about not letting yourself get trapped in just one small part of the miniatures. Oh, let's see. Old Seabed. Yeah, that was they. I think they went so far as to make an expansion of it called Eastern Front, and then that was about it. They were supposed to be doing planes and all other kinds of stuff. I don't think they ever did those. Maybe they did. I don't know. As I get now some more reflected golds in here on our these little pair of cobras here. Gonna try and sneak some light down in there. Now let's get some greens here. We've been playing around with the yellows an awful lot. Let's not be remiss because hey, we want contrast. And what else says contrast better with golds than to put fluorescent green right next to that red? We just did that. We just did that. And we're gonna keep doing that. Because sometimes when you ain't getting the contrast that you want, you got to break out the big guns. And when it's not faded ultramarine, it's going to be fluorescent. So we just put, again, fluorescent green right in there, all up in here. We are going to get some of that over here too. Touch of it on the underside of that over here next to our red, because green against red, value not so much different, but fluorescent green next to red, that right there, that's going to make difference. Sarge says need a Bob Marley emote for the follows. Oh, well, I put in my Gandalf there. I gotta have my Gandalf. Gotta have that. Well, there's the associate. Well, we also wanted a by your command. I think that was maybe going to be for hosting. That maybe was going to be the hosting sound. Now I am going to get some. Where did you go? Here. Get some of the pure white over here and conveniently shove that over here by the green, because we're going to make ourselves some crazy intense green here. Poof, like that. Let's see what we can do on his eye here. There we go. It starts to get a little lighter. And then, oh look, what is more convenient for highlighting gold than some super bright fluorescent green? I'm gonna get some more of these in here too. I think it was the it was the Lizardman team, wasn't it? Where there was a lot of the fluorescence added to the golds. Yeah. Well, we're doing that now here. Again, we've got the oranges set in place. Now we are adding that fluorescent green right next to it. And it is not going, people aren't going to look at that and say, wow, look at that really bright green. They're just going to say, man, look at how that red and gold just contrast with each other. They're not going to know. They may not even believe you when you tell them. And you don't even, you have to make them guess. Make them guess how you got that contrast. Hey, it's Cosplaying Kitten. Did you just end a stream? Actually, well, speaking of which, go follow Cosplaying Kitten, because, well, you'll get miniature painting, but you'll also get some really fantastic digital art, which, actually, was it yesterday or the day before? You were doing the digital art, which is always really cool to see. Well, and digital art and cosplay, because, well, that's what she does. And she's got a gigantic, ginormous Tyranid army that she's worked on for, oh gosh, how long have you been adding stuff to your Tyranids? So more of the fluorescent green. We're just not, oh, no stream today. On Wednesday, I think. I don't know why I thought today was Wednesday. Or is it? Nah, today's Tuesday. I barely knew what day of the week it was before, and now, with not shipping things out as regularly as I did before, now I'm even more lost on what day of the week it is. I think we just referred to Wednesdays as pre-Thursday, and I think Fridays were second Thursdays. Now we got our little Lotus thing here. Let's do some stuff. Oh, and look at this. It's like fluorescent green. Huh. Who'd have thought? That's probably not what I was thinking originally. I don't know, a couple hours ago when we started this thing. Blue says it's Wednesday for me. So let's see. Now, in Melbourne, and I'm not going to cheat, use my phone. It should be 13 hours ahead of us. Because let's see, 2 o'clock in the morning here is supper time for you guys. So it's got to be, oh, what time in the morning is it there? Is it something like maybe a 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning down there? I'm just throwing guesses out as I make some lighter red because we haven't messed with this area in a while. Rainbow Sculptors, any tips for painting black objects? Well, the first tip is you don't use any black, but I have on the YouTube channel, I have 2 different videos that focus actually just on black. One of them is, it's painting a Lord of the Rings ring wraith, but boy, I don't know if I can get to it here. I'm just trying to dig him out. Aha, there you are. So this is another one here. So we've got Black Panther, and there's a million different colors in him, none of which are black, because I'm wearing a black sweatshirt here, and you can see, well, that's not black. It's whatever the colors of the lights are shining down on him. Yeah, oh, and here's another color of object source lighting there, kind of that teal. So yeah, that's on the YouTube channel there. But yeah, that's the whole idea of black. You want to use dark blue, dark green, dark brown, dark red, anything but black, because if you use black, it's just literally a dead color. It's not going to give you any kind of life whatsoever. And it's always oh, let's see, so bullets. Oh, it's 11:30 a.m. Okay, so I was a few hours off. I'm so used to translating what it is at 2 something o'clock in the morning here, or 3 o'clock in the morning here, because I know that is about 6 p.m. for Melbourne there, I believe. But definitely as far as the blacks go, I'm gonna be doing some more ring wraiths, so I will be doing some of that type of stuff here on the Twitch channel as well. You know what? Actually, this was the latest session here. So I was working on these guys, and they actually have black shields and black here. So you can actually watch the last. It should still be going for at least another 8 days or so, I think. But it's the Baratheons. It's a previous stream. You can check that out, and that's got some blacks in there too. Yeah, I'm gonna go straight into the fluorescent orange here. Mixing that in with the red. I want a different temperature of red here, almost a little bit cooler because everything has been warmer. Oh, Rainbow Sculptor, you got to a much lighter value for the highlights than I expected. Go check the YouTube videos. Yeah, it's just James Wappel on YouTube. just James Wappel on YouTube. I did the Wappelius thing for the channel here because, well, that's what I was stuck with for eBay and Cool Mini and my Instagram and everything else basically. So I got lots of different reds now that I can just kind of dive in here. Let's do some reflected stuff on the red down here. Again, this is essentially a dry glaze. Taking advantage of the clear paints. Now I'm going to shift gears a bit here, and we're going to use some of that grayish green for some of the lotus work down here. Because it's not really going to so much be lighter or darker, but it is going to be cooler. It's going to be a different tone. Oh, let's get some blue. Let's get some blue action going on here also, and the end of his little mace, scepter thing, whatever that just might happen to be. Let's go a little bit further down here. This one is a Reaper figure. It's I don't know what his name is. I did remember what the name of this was at one point, but I don't remember anymore. But there was, when they started doing their Warlord game, they had a faction that was very Egyptian. Well, every game tries to have an Egyptian style faction because Egyptian stuff is cool. But it's a Reaper figure. Now this one is the metal, but they also have it in bones, which would A, be cheaper, and B, not weigh a ton like this one does. Because man, does he weigh a ton. And oh, by the way, here's his base. I think you can see now how this is starting to align here. Trying to get some color on him because, well, the base is going to be sort of devoid of color by comparison. So we'll just leave the base right there so people can hopefully maybe see that. But we're going in here with some more of our lighter blue on the end of this. There we go. Even into some of the gems. So like I said, I did not fret about these things early on. Now I can start to mess around with these things. I can start to get that, basically the transparent gem where it's a little bit lighter on the bottom, and then you have that really bright highlight across the top. Give it that sharp line. Let's develop this a bit more. I also want to get this thing going, this bird here. It's not getting as much of my blue as I want, so I'm going to go back into my clear blue here. Get a bit more of a mid-tone. It definitely has that sort of a Stargatey type feel. Now, speaking of Instagram, you can check out some of my Tomb King stuff. You can also see that on the blog. That's just, well, again, Wappelius, blogspot.com. There's about 120 posts on my Tomb King's army. I was thinking of going with purples. Okay, I'm just trying to get caught up on the chat like you do. Now I'm going to throw in some darks here and then go in with some of my lights as well. Again, that's the basically clear purple. Got some of the brown liner mixed in with it too. Just starting to find some separation here, because you can do that. Like right there. Some more. Now let's get the separation on this end too. Now, I don't know if you heard me talking about what the base was made out of.
Hello, little hobbits. Spark my ganja.
Hey, look here. Thanks for the follow. Much appreciated. We're just gonna show the base again for the folks that haven't necessarily had a chance to see that. And I just want to get a couple of darks right in there on the end of those. That is helpful. So base here made from not that roller, but from this roller. So again, from Green Stuff World, you can see that Egyptian texture, right? And it was rolled into some gray extra firm Sculpey. So this is another roller type. I've done plenty of bases with this. Oh, here we go. Check this out. So here is this base right here. Yeah, you can see those two roundels line up. So this is actually my first army painting series here on the Patreon page from many moons ago. But here's your extra gray or extra firm gray Sculpey. It's a bakeable clay. You bake it in the oven on a ceramic tile. And now this extra chunk here, right? Our little head, that stuff like this. And they have Roman theme, Egyptian theme. So here's another very nifty kind of Egyptian theme. There's there's your Greek theme right there. And another one of your Egyptian. Oh, here's another Egyptian theme. Really cool. So on these larger figures, they really add a lot. Bolo says you have a load of videos on Patreon too. Are they standalone tutorials or edit? No, those are all standalone tutorials. I've been making tutorial videos since 2013. And when you do the Patreon thing, you'll get, well, all of the ones that were done back then, but you're going to get army painting series like this. So here's, that's one of the series there. You've got another series here. And every series of 5 episodes starts out with basing like this. So that's series 14, that's episode 1. And you can see we did all of our bases there. And I'll bring out one of my Cipher Lords. So it starts with the basing, it goes all the way through to freehand, all that kind of nifty stuff. And all of the basing stuff is from Green Stuff World. I just used tons of those. You have my YouTube channel. I've got lots of basing videos with those. But I also will be doing some more Twitch episodes with those too. So definitely want to follow along. Yeah, we need to find ourselves some more highlights along here too. We've developed all these other areas. Now we got to start thinking about some of these places too. I'm gonna hold this like so. And we're going to try and get ourselves, there we go, some lighter highlights, not on the top of all of these little gemstone things. We're going to get some lighter stuff on his armor. And again, this is actually the fluorescent green that we're doing here. Because like you say, what's better for highlighting gold than fluorescent green? Because it's just super. Now I'm going to get some of this clear paint here. Have I tried the liquid pigments? I most definitely have. I've actually done a couple of videos with them. This one right here, this dark green dust, I just used it on this tutorial that I've posted to the Patreon page yesterday. So some of that was used on the painting of the mushrooms and on the parts that are wood. Yeah, even used a little bit of it there too. So that was my latest Patreon tutorial there. And I've also used them on a couple of terrain pieces. So this is just a clear green over here, because that plays real nice with the fluorescent green over here. So let's do some of that. Oh, look at those two together. Look at those two together. I'll get that on his eyes here, because I need it to be a little bit darker but still intense and transparent. There we go. I'm going to let some of that carry out beyond his eyes a bit. make them have more of a glow instead of just being, well, lighter green dots. There, so it starts to spread that out a little bit. Um, the they are, I want to say, like the whole point behind those. Now, did you see there was the terrain one? Remember where the sound was all kind of wacky on that one? Um, Actually, I'm filming some more. I'm doing a fountain with some water effects. I guess the whole idea is, well, you've seen me use the weathering powders and the like the pigment fixer and rubbing alcohol and stuff. So instead of using this and mixing it with something that's a liquid like a rubbing alcohol with a pigment fixer, you're just supposed that's like that in a jar and it's liquid. To be honest, I'd rather just have the powders. So if you've already got the weathering powders and you don't mind, that kind of rubbing alcohol mix to make it liquid, well, that's my go-to thing. I would prefer that, but you can't always have rubbing alcohol with you everywhere you go. Well, especially now, where it was only just this week where I was actually able to get rubbing alcohol again. Let's do this. Let's do some reflections here. So sorry if I didn't see that question right away. I'm not quite sure how I missed it. Let's see. Do you push the Scopy in a mold? You can. I actually have done base designs as I add some reflected thing with some here. There's some of that. Again, that's the clear green and the fluorescent green mixed together. I actually have made, I call them press molds, where I can actually just literally shove the Scopy into a mold. Now, if you're going to do that, you'll actually want to put it in the freezer for a little while.
Hello, little hobbits. Spark my ganja.
Hey, Kraut, thanks for the follow. Now, if you do, you want to put it in the freezer because then it'll just pop out of the mold. Otherwise, you're going to smush your Scopy trying to get out of the mold or deform it or something bad. But if you basically freeze it and then you take it out of the freezer and you actually give it a minute or two, you actually get some condensation on it, which quite literally helps free it from the mold. So not a bad idea to do that. I'm just trying to get some highlights here on my, I love the secret weapon powders. See, I didn't even know they were making those, and I thought, okay, well, we'll give those a try, and they were okay. It was not like they were bad, but I sort of like the green stuff world powders better because I can remove those, especially if I'm using the rubbing alcohol, because, well, I can wash the whole darn thing away. So I can do that sort of winter wash on vehicles, right? With the rubbing alcohol mix.
Hello, little hobbits. Spark my ganja.
Oh, thanks for the follow. Never blew a dud. Never blew a dude. Yeah, let's get a little bit of. JS Twitch, thank you for the subscription. Appreciated. Oh, we need to get some lights down here. Now we still got our green. Still got a green. And we're gonna get some. That's it. Oh, we have to hit this blue right over here. Man, I forgot all about this. I think I must have went and looked up at the chat. There we go. There we go. Let's go back into our red here. Now, just found the basing playlist. Yeah, the most recent one is going to be, well, actually the first one, you'll want to look at that. That's actually the Grey Knights one. And then you're going to want to look at the Baking Your Scopy. That's up there for a reason. Because I don't know how many times I get asked, how do you bake this Scopy? I'm not getting the texture that you do. Just, well, for one thing, you just look at the box, and the instructions are on there. But when you're baking that Scopy, do test bakes, because every oven is different. When we got a new oven, our Scopy turned out very different than the old oven. So do that. You'll be glad you did. And you'll also want to bake it on a ceramic tile. Couple of reasons why. There's you want to be doing the ceramic tile because the metal trays bend, and then you're going to have Sculpey that is not flat. That's no good. The metal tray is going to transfer a lot more heat to your Sculpey. And well, actually, Sculpey can catch fire in the oven if you bake it too much. So there's that. But you just don't want to be scorching your Sculpey because, well, Sculpey does cost money. It's not expensive, but no sense in just burning it. Now let's see. I haven't tried pigments or the powder. It's usually seen as kind of a vehicle painting, like a historical thing for weathering vehicles and such. But I love using it for mud effects on vehicles or just on the figures. Let's go back to where's my Rohan here? So actually, yeah, see some of the spatter on those guys. That's actually the weathering powders. If you see that on their, now you can see it. You can see on the bottom of their cloaks there. That's actually just weathering powder mixed with probably the pigment fixer. I don't know. I made those videos a while ago. Yeah, pigment. There's just something about the pigment. It gives you a little different texture. Actually, it was, a little bit like this. This is like super, 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 super matte. Very matte. I also like to use them sometimes, like on this base. This would be a prime candidate for that. Taking the liquid. Maybe we'll try and do that in a little bit here. Maybe we'll try and do that on our base, so you can see that. There's some of the vehicles on the YouTube channel. There's a couple of the, was it Gaslands or something like that? They look sort of like Mad Max vehicles. And I mixed them. Where did my pigment fixer go? Oh, everything is moved around. But yeah, it was. And it doesn't have to be Secret Weapon pigment fixer. Big Ammo makes a pigment fixer. There's a bunch of different folks that make pigment fixers. But thank you very much for the subscription, JS. It's appreciated. Oh, and I finally got fluorescent oils coming this way. It's in a recent stream, someone was kind enough to kind of do some research and send me links. And one of the 4 links, actually, there was a viable web store. So it's on the way. I have no idea if it's going to work or not, but you'll find out. We'll just probably try them live here. That's what I try to do with new stuff. Look at this. So again, this is fluorescent orange here. Speaking of fluorescent paints, guess that's why it popped into my head. Look at what that's doing to our, look at how that just, it's not going to look like fluorescent orange, but it's sure going to make those reds really stand out like, wow. Yeah, let's do some of that here. So some more over here. It's tricky because it actually is super transparent. It really is. It sometimes can take a little while to just master a bit. So Nessie knows I used ammo pigments on the Star Wars. Oh yeah, I have some of theirs too. They're definitely super nice. That's for sure. And what brand oils do I normally use? It's going to be, well, speaking of MIG ammo, I will use these two. Boom. MIG ammo oil brushers. But I will take Winsor Newton regular oil paints, and I will add white spirits to them, and that's where I make my own oil paints. And I don't have them nearby. They're kind of out of harm's way because I've got so many other things in the area here. But this guy was, yeah, this is the most recent oil painting stream that I did. But I just posted this guy a little earlier here. This big old bad boy from Big Child Korea. So this was another oil painting video that I did for the Patreon page. And that was done with my own mixes. Actually, I tried the purple madder, I think, for this for the first time to do this kind of black orc skin tone. And yes, all the tribal stuff was painted wet onto wet because you can do that with oils. Yes, you can. Yeah, that just gets so much more intense. I really love that. Oh, I haven't done anything with the skin tone in a while. I'm going to go back to... Oh, look at this. I got some green here. Got some green.
Hello, little hobbits. Spark my ganja.
Thank you for the follow of Akroja. I'll just pronounce it that way. I know I horribly mispronounce so many names, and I apologize. Even my own. And I'm thinking, well, how can they not quite see how that's... But no, it's tough when you got your face into a miniature and maybe even a camera. As we add some more, look at this, some more green in here. Just look at that, nice little touch of green there. Let's get some over here. It's Drax. How you doing, Drax? Oh, Pirate Poog makes me want to try oils. And hey, Josh, how you doing? Just enjoying this Reaper figure right here. Big old hunk of metal. And here is his base. So if I have time, I'll try and get some weathering powders on the base. But for sure, I just wanted to take people through the painting process on this. So as always, he was nothing but, well, primer when we started. He had zero color on him. And then we've taken him to this. We've added fluorescent paints. We've used mostly the Reaper Clear and liner paints. I'm just adding some of the... This is a mix of the clear green and the green liner paint. Now we're going to take some of that clear purple. Let's just solidify some lines here too on this section here before we start to add some lights. Let's do some claws. So how are things going there, Josh? And Drax too. Now, are you still going to be working on your big dude again tonight, like you were last night? 'Cause I think were you working on the base of that? So well, I guess it's not that much longer before you start yours again. So definitely follow Drax. Now, did you finish all of the vehicles too? So if you want to see lots of airbrush, really cool airbrush stuff, Drax will have some airbrush for you. He will definitely have some airbrush going for you. So if you love the windy brushes, ooh, I like that name. I like that name for all kinds of reasons. Because I just call these hairy sticks. So airbrushes are the windy brushes. I like that a whole bunch. I probably like it a whole lot more than is legally possible, but I do. Now I'm just going to, along here, start to bring in some of my lights again. Let's see what we can do here with the, oh, look at this. We've got our fluorescent green and yellow sitting over here so that we can pop in some nice bright lights. Are a little bit of a, I like to do these linear type things also with when you're doing stuff like gold. Here's some of our fluorescent yellow now. Bam. I'm going to walk this around here. Same thing on the shoulder here. Now, do we need a little bit more of that over here? It is the Drax. Yes, Kathy's always here. Oh yeah, I was hanging out with Drax and the guys last night, and it was fun. So yeah, we were talking about you earlier today. I just forgot that it's getting to be sort of that time of the evening where you might not be
Hello,
starting.
little hobbit. Spark my ganja.
It's the Bug King. Welcome to Wappleville, and thanks for the follow. Thanks for the follow. There's some of that, again, the fluorescent green being all nice and translucent like, the way we want it to be, which I know probably drives a whole bunch of people nuts when paint is transparent, because they want it to cover. They don't want it to not cover. I'm going to see if I can't. That's actually some of my, almost my gold highlight color there. That's going to go into the skin tone because, well, again, chapter 1, verse 1 of the Book of Wappel, if color goes somewhere, it must go everywhere. Get some more light in the bottom of his beak. Maybe a little bit into some feathers here on his chest. I'm not going to screw around with that too much because you're going to have a tough time seeing it, and I'm going to have a tough time reaching it. Leastwise while the camera's on, so we'll just save that area for another time. However, I'm going to get me some more reflected light here on this gold. Can you see that? I think you can. Yes, I think you can. Ah, the Bug King. Yeah, thanks again. I appreciate it. Having you aboard. Now, I want you to get some of my blue. And that's just clear blue, mixing it with that maggot white there. We did all of this, dousing it with those darker colors early on, and now we can start to develop some of the lighter stuff. But still, it's just basically a light middle tone at this point here. With the reds, we got our red and fluorescent orange over here that we can use to bring out a few of these gems over here as we do. It's not 3 a.m. under the stairs. Can't see anything. Well, I was going to, actually last night, the plan was to do a live session, but I was uploading this stupid video, and it didn't finish till almost 4 in the morning my time. And I said, man, even for me, that would be ill-advised to be starting up a live stream then. So that's why we're here in this ungodly hour of 8:57 p.m. here, doing our painting thing. How's about, here we go. Really enjoying this. Is, we've got that initial stage, right, where everything is messy and all that kind of stuff. Bugging says it's a touch late. Yeah, well, it's I know it won't be too long before Kathy turns into a pumpkin, because she is prone to do that sometimes in the evenings. Oh, I wish I had some more of my fluorescent yellow out there. I have to put some back out, but I do want to get just a little touch of reflected light on some of the gemstones. So he's going to stand out nice from our base over here. And yes, this base is a huge honking base because he weighs a ton, and we didn't want him flipping over. Plus, well, like Egypt stuff. I mean, why not have a big old base for that? Because Egypt. Oh, we're going to go back into our... This is almost like a little bit of the fluorescent green and the fluorescent orange together. And thinking this dark, light, dark. When you look at your things like any kind of non-metallic, you'll have that going on. That's what helps indicate that whole reflected light thing. So we'll get a little bit of blue here, and now let's do the red thing right along his shoulder here. So remember, about 2.5 hours ago when we had no clue what we wanted to do in this area. Well, it just, now it kind of says, all right, yeah, just do this. Finish it off this way. Sometimes you just kind of leave the area, put a little something there, and then you just leave it, and then you come back to it. And sometimes you'll have a better idea or a better answer of what it is you want to do there when you come back at another time. I think we can give that a little boost of the fluorescent orange. We're going to do that back here too. You didn't think you were going to get fluorescent paints, did you? And the Bug King does a subscribe. Oh, thanks for the sub. That is appreciated. And you get to hear some of the new sounds. Yes, indeed. We got ourselves some Lord of the Rings sounds. We've got ourselves some BSG. And so I'm even doing a little bit more now with the orange. But oh, where's my yellow? I'm gonna get some of this yellow out here because we have developed enough of our shading, I think, along the way here to have some fun with this. Have some fun like so. Remember that whole dry glaze thing that I was talking about before? Well, thanks again. I appreciate the gifted sub. Yeah, let's do a couple of restoration on these lines here. Like so. Do we need to do that here? Now, yet some of this stuff I will do afterwards with my full lights turned on, because right now I actually have only a portion of my lights on, because otherwise this gets all burned out for you guys. Especially with the fluorescence. Oh my gosh. It really bounces the fluorescence in a serious way. Now we've got our even some green here. Just gonna dab away at it here. Let's mix some of our, I mixed a little bit of the maiden flesh in there because, well, purple and green will give you a nice gray. So we're sort of doing that here in a weird way, but we're making, again, kind of a grayish color here. Kind of a gray. Now I'm going to hit this with some of the fluorescent orange up here. Again, make that a little bit more intense. There's our yellow. Mixed with a touch of that maiden flesh. It's going to give it some extra zip. We've got to now also, remember that whole reflected light thing? So see what just happened there? I think you'll be able, I think you can see it there. We're going to do it here. Basically little dots of what is essentially reflected light. Now we got to do that with our blue and our red. Let's see if we can do that. Let's see if we can make that happen. I'm going to get them on the screen for you. And there's some of our blue. Because these gems, we've kind of let those sit there almost, I said, for a couple of hours. Oh, let's go over here with some of our lighter blues, like you do. Pick up some of these edges here. Go back to more of the kind of the middle version of that. Gonna get down into that crevice here. I'm gonna go back to my lighter version. Again, just clear blue and the maggot white, keeping it simple. But this is where we sort of give it that bit of kind of reflected light, that sort of gemstone thing. Let's see. I'm gonna go watch murder shows. Oh yeah, that's well, I will probably head out relatively soon here too. But I just want to get this going. Don't want to lose my place here. Let's go. I'm going to get my lighter hat across the top of these blue gems like so. Boom. There we go. Can I do that here? Hopefully it is on screen for you guys. I do believe it is. Maybe even a couple of little lights here on our blue and the whole lotus thing. I'm going to use the maiden flash that's sitting over here. Again, these are all, except with the exception of the fluorescent paints, these are all Reaper colors. Like that. Here's another edge here. Just trying to pick up some of these edges. I also have to do that along here too. First though, I'm going to take some of your fluorescent orange in that. Oh, it's not special fiscal responsible to gift out subs. Well, they are appreciated for sure. Now let's again got the maiden flesh here. I'm going to get some of the yellow there. The whole idea is it keeps it from turning pink. And I just got to get myself a line along the edge of this red here. Just going to thin it down. That is the nice thing also about the clear paints, the fluorescent paints, they are just naturally thinner. So it makes it a little bit easier to do things like that line. We got to do another one on the other side here. Like this. But then I've also got, again, my purple liner here. Purple. Well, there's a violet liner. I don't know if it's still. Oh no, I think that one was actually discontinued. So we're going to use a red liner to darken the clear purple. And now I'm going to just sharpen up some edges here. Get some. Sometimes you have to have dark to show light, and that is why we're doing a nice dark line in there. That's supposed to be metal. We need almost basically a de facto horizon line in there. That's what we were just adding. We can reinforce some of these lines too, like you do. Let's do couple more on this side. So you saw we didn't really have any special plan for what was going on at the end of this thing. We just sort of walked into something that matched with everything else. As we get a sub from Noon, thank you very much. Appreciate the sub. It is appreciated. I will get a couple more shots of my purple down in here also. And I'm looking, let's get a little fix-it job there. We need to get this is another thing when you're doing the non-metallic stuff, you gotta have substantial contrast between areas. It can't just be like a cloak. You can have that gentle contrast from one shape to the next, but that's why here on the back of this, that's why we've got all of these different, some that are really, really dark, next to some things that are much lighter. Now, really dark wise, I'm going to actually take some of that blue liner and our clear blue, and I'm going to, yep, I'm trying to just get a couple, see, we're trying to make that fan shape, make that a little bit darker, even in here. Make that a bit darker. I'm going to use actually this dark blue to get some shape in the red gems here on the head crest. Yes, I'm going to use a really dark blue to shade that red. So you don't always have to just use a darker version of that same color. Sometimes, well, let's say you got a green cloak and you actually put a dark red in the crevices or the deep shadow areas of that cloak. It actually makes it look a little bit more interesting than just a darker green. I mean, you can have a nicely shaded cloak with the dark green. It's not like it won't be nicely shaded, but boy, you add that extra touch of even something like a dark purple in the crevices of a green cloak or even green armor for that matter. And it's just going to give it this is a little extra life, to it. Now, oh, I see we need to add a little more dark to there too. Yeah, all of this whole thing was just nothing but primer when we first started this a couple hours ago. Well, more like 3 hours ago. Let us get some more purples back here. I think in this area too, I've got to do some kind of gemstone type of things as well. I had even thought about doing some kind of tattoo things on his skin, but I won't do that. There's already a lot going on here. Sometimes too much is too much, and it can get to be too much in a hurry.